Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Coming into conflict with. Take exception to. A disagreement or argument about something important. He had a dispute with his wife. Have a disagreement over something. Coming into conflict with. Take exception to. She challenged his claims. Raise a formal objection in a court of law. A call to engage in a contest or fight. A demand by a sentry for a password or identification. A demanding or stimulating situation. They reacted irrationally to the challenge of Russian power. A formal objection to the selection of a particular person as a juror. Ask for identification. The illegal immigrant was challenged by the border guard. Issue a challenge to. Fisher challenged Spassky to a match. Questioning a statement and demanding an explanation. His challenge of the assumption that Japan is still our enemy. Take exception to. Go against, as of rules and laws. This behavior conflicts with our rules. An open clash between two opposing groups, or individuals. The harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. A hostile meeting of opposing military forces in the course of a war. A disagreement or argument about something important. The familiar conflict between Republicans and Democrats. An incompatibility of dates or events. He noticed a conflict in the dates of the two meetings. A state of opposition between persons or ideas or interests. His conflict of interest made him ineligible for the post. Be in conflict. The two proposals conflict. Opposition between two simultaneous but incompatible feelings. He was immobilized by conflict and indecision. Opposition in a work of drama or fiction between characters or forces, especially an opposition that motivates the development of the plot. This form of conflict is essential to man's writing. A variation that deviates from the standard or norm. The number that remains after subtraction. The number that when added to the subtrahend gives the minuend. A disagreement or argument about something important. There were irreconcilable differences. A significant change. The difference in her is amazing. The quality of being unlike or dissimilar. There are many differences between jazz and rock. A disagreement or argument about something important. Have a disagreement over something. Have a disagreement over something. An angry dispute. They had a quarrel. Have a disagreement over something. We quarreled over the question as to who discovered America. An arrow that is shot from a crossbow has a head with 4 edges. Worthless material that is to be disposed of. Dispose of something useless or old. Scrap your old computer. A small fragment of something broken off from the whole. The act of fighting, any contest or struggle. The unhappy couple got into a terrible scrap. Have a disagreement over something. These two fellows are always scrapping over something. A small piece of something that is left over after the rest has been used. She jotted it on a scrap of paper. Make into scrap or refuse. Scrap the old airplane and sell the parts. An electrical device that resists the flow of electrical current. A secret group organized to overthrow a government or occupation force. The action of opposing something that you disapprove or disagree with. He encountered a general feeling of resistance from many citizens. Medicine, the condition in which an organism can resist disease. A material's opposition to the flow of electric current, measured in ohms. Any mechanical force that tends to retard or oppose motion. Group action in opposition to those in power. Psychiatry, an unwillingness to bring repressed feelings into conscious awareness. The capacity of an organism to defend itself against harmful environmental agents. These trees are widely planted because of their resistance to salt and smog. The degree of unresponsiveness of a disease-causing microorganism to antibiotics or other drugs, as in penicillin-resistant bacteria. The military action of resisting the enemy's advance. The enemy offered little resistance. An occasion on which a winner is selected from among two or more contestants. To make the subject of dispute, contention, or litigation. They contested the outcome of the race. A struggle between rivals. To make the subject of dispute, contention, or litigation. Be engaged in a fight. Carry on a fight. Militant groups are contending for control of the country. Have an argument about something. Maintain or assert. He contended that communism had no future. Succeed in doing, achieving, or producing something, with the limited or inadequate means available. Compete for something. Engage in a contest. Measure oneself against others. To make the subject of dispute, contention, or litigation. A difference between conflicting facts or claims or opinions. A conflict of people's opinions or actions or characters. The speech act of disagreeing or arguing or disputing. Have an argument about something. Enclose with a fence. We fenced in our yard. A barrier that serves to enclose an area. Surround with a wall in order to fortify. A dealer in stolen property. Fight with fencing swords. Receive stolen goods. Present reasons and arguments. Have an argument about something. Give evidence of. The evidence argues for your claim. A discussion in which reasons are advanced for and against some proposition or proposal. Have an argument about something. Think about carefully, weigh. The formal presentation of a stated proposition and the opposition to it, usually followed by a vote. Discuss the pros and cons of an issue. Argue with one another. We debated the question of abortion. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. Make a prediction about. Tell in advance. Order, request, or command to come. She was called into the director's office. Utter a sudden loud cry. Pay a brief visit. The mayor likes to call on some of the prominent citizens. The option to buy a given stock, or stock index or commodity future, at a given price before a given date. A demand by a broker that a customer deposit enough to bring his margin up to the minimum requirement. A demand especially in the phrase the call of duty. A telephone connection. She reported several anonymous calls. A loud utterance, often in protest or opposition. Greet, as with a prescribed form, title, or name. She calls him by first name. Demand payment of a loan. Give the calls to the dancers for a square dance. Get or try to get into communication with someone by telephone. I tried to call you all night. The characteristic sound produced by a bird. Make a demand, as for a card or a suit or a show of hands. He called his trump. A brief social visit. Senior professors' wives no longer make afternoon calls on newcomers. A demand for a show of hands in a card game. After 2 raises there was a call. An instruction that interrupts the program being executed. Pascal performs calls by simply giving the name of the routine to be executed. A request. Many calls for Christmas stories. Ascribe a quality to or give a name of a common noun that reflects a quality. He called me a bastard. A special disposition, as if from a divine source, to pursue a particular course. A visit in an official or professional capacity. The pastor's calls on his parishioners. Call a meeting. Invite or command to meet. The 1C conference was called to discuss the final solution. Challenge somebody to make good on a statement, charge with or censure for an offense. He deserves to be called on that. Challenge the sincerity or truthfulness of. Call the speaker on a question of fact. Consider or regard as being. I would not call her beautiful. Declare in the capacity of an umpire or referee. Call a runner out. Indicate a decision in regard to. Call balls and strikes behind the plate. Lure by imitating the characteristic call of an animal. Make a stop in a harbor. The ship will call in Honolulu tomorrow. Order or request or give a command for. The unions called a general strike for Sunday. Order, summon, or request for a specific duty or activity, work, role. He was already called 4 times for jury duty. Read aloud to check for omissions or absentees. Require the presentation of for redemption before maturation. Rouse somebody from sleep with a call. I was called at 5 a.m. this morning. Send a message or attempt to reach someone by radio, phone, etc. Make a signal to in order to transmit a message. Hawaii is calling. Sports, the decision made by an umpire or referee. He was ejected for protesting the call. Stop or postpone because of adverse conditions, such as bad weather. Call a football game. Utter a characteristic note or cry. Blue jays called to one another. Utter in a loud voice or announce. He called my name. A course of reasoning aimed at demonstrating a truth or falsehood, the methodical process of logical reasoning. A fact or assertion offered as evidence that something is true. It was a strong argument that his hypothesis was true. A discussion in which reasons are advanced for and against some proposition or proposal. The argument over foreign aid goes on and on. A summary of the subject or plot of a literary work or play or movie. The editor added the argument to the poem. A contentious speech act. A dispute where there is strong disagreement. They were involved in a violent argument. Computer science. A reference or value that is passed to a function, procedure, subroutine, command, or program. A variable in a logical or mathematical expression whose value determines the dependent variable. If f, x, equals y, x is the independent variable. A contentious speech act. A dispute where there is strong disagreement. A contentious speech act. A dispute where there is strong disagreement. The act of competing as for profit or a prize. The teams were in fierce contention for first place. A point asserted as part of an argument. A contentious speech act. A dispute where there is strong disagreement. A contentious speech act. A dispute where there is strong disagreement. A contentious speech act. A dispute where there is strong disagreement. A contentious speech act. A dispute where there is strong disagreement. The formal presentation of a stated proposition and the opposition to it, usually followed by a vote. An angry dispute. An act of delaying or interrupting the continuity. There was a gap in his account. An open or empty space in or between things. The explosion made a gap in the wall. A narrow opening. A conspicuous disparity or difference as between two figures. Gap between income and outgo. A pass between mountain peaks. Make an opening or gap in. A difference, especially an unfortunate difference, between two opinions or two views or two situations. To quarrel noisily, angrily or disruptively. The barkeeper threw them out, but they continued to wrangle on down the street. An angry dispute. An instance of intense argument, as in bargaining. Herd and care for. Wrangle horses. Physics. A brief event in which two or more bodies come together. The collision of the particles resulted in an exchange of energy and a change of direction. A conflict of opposed ideas or attitudes or goals. A collision of interests. An accident resulting from violent impact of a moving object. 3 passengers were killed in the collision.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.